Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Leon.
And we're going to talk about some games and other stuff today. So what do we have to start with?
Well, related to games, we want to talk about some gaming records.
Okay.
Right? In the past couple of months, there have been some new developments in games, like world records set for games, either amount of time playing or high scores or something like that. So the two notable ones were a Qbert record that was set.
So the Qbert world record was broken after how many years? Wasn't it? It was like
it was a long-standing record
time,
since like
yeah.
1983, actually.
That's crazy.
And it's been finally beaten. Finally, I don't know how many attempts there have been, but
isn't that amazing? People are still trying to break records from 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
I think classic arcade games are unique in that way because they're sort of meant to be like quick, short games. And there's no like real end plan for a lot of them. It's more like, let's just see how long you can survive. Now, who are we talking about actually? We're talking about two different people that made attempts that same weekend. Mm-hmm. A Florida man by the name of Ed Heemskerk was going to beat his previous record of 68 hours of Qbert.
Okay.
But he got as far as 63 hours. So he didn't quite make it. But very admirable effort. Now, meanwhile, there was another man at a New Jersey arcade.
At the same time, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much the same weekend. I think he started maybe a day later. Scored over 37 million points of Qbert after nearly 85 hours of gameplay. So that's over 3 days of just continuous Qbert. Well into the fourth day. So
he apparently never slept. He just played straight through. I don't see how that's possible, but I guess
I don't know how people do it. That's incredible endurance, not only to be able to just stay awake that long.
I don't know. I mean, I've done some game marathons of playing like 12 hours straight, or I don't know what my max time was, but there's a point where you kind of just phase out and you start to drift, and your character's like walking into a wall because you fell asleep with the joystick moved a certain way.
Out of just sheer fatigue, yeah. I can't imagine that.
That's amazing.
I mean, needless to say, I'm never going to come close to these records.
You're giving up already? You didn't even try.
That's it. I know for sure. There's just no way to do it.
Wow.
But we've also got a Missile Command record that was broken.
So another record in a span of 2 months was broken.
Yeah.
Like, these records have been long-standing. You're talking about 30-year-old games, and people are breaking these records.
Yeah, the original Missile Command record was set in 1982, and it was 80.5 million points.
Wow.
If you can believe that. But somebody beat it. 81.7 million is now the new record. It took 56 hours to get to that point. Now, when I play Missile Command, it's like hard after like the first 4 minutes.
As soon as the sky turns blue, then when I get to that stage, I'm like, all right, this is getting those little like blinking things that come down.
Right. The person that did it this time was Victor Sandberg, who is someone in Sweden. Beat the game on a single quarter.
Wow. It's nice to know that people still care about, going for high scores, which is almost like a lost art, but not really, because people are doing it. And whether it's modern games or classic games, you always have people trying to beat records. One guy who's really famous for starting this whole kind of league, or whatever you want to call it, this whole record system, is Walter Day from, he founded Twin Galaxies.
Right.
So Walter Day announced around the same time these high scores are being broken that he's going to hang it up. He's hanging up his stripes. And he's no longer going to referee or have any part in this. So basically he's retiring.
From the scene.
He's quote unquote retiring.
Pursue other
Well, he does. He
goals.
Is a musician on the side, so he feels like he's accomplished one thing in his life, and now he wants to get into the music business or whatever side of music that he enjoys. Maybe it's just for his own personal.
Yeah, I mean, the Twin Galaxies organization's going to continue. He's certainly the most visible sort of name associated with it, but they're going to keep, cataloging.
I think it's self-runs. It's so.
Yeah, there's people there that have been helping him all along, and they're gonna keep it going. And I'm sure
he passed the torch on to somebody else.
Yeah, right. So do we know anyone who's been participating in setting Twin Galaxies records?
Yeah. So actually, I was at CGE Classic Gaming Expo in 2010, and I met this guy Rudy Ferretti, and I also spoke to him a little bit online first, and he is a part of Twin Galaxies. He owns a numerous number of records on there. So I figured, let's give him a call. We'll Skype him and see what's going on, and find out a little bit more about him, see what he's up to, learn all about Rudy Ferretti. What do you say?
Good deal.
Okay, so let's contact him.
Let's see what he's up to.
So what's up? What are you up to these days?
Honestly, nothing. Just basically kicking back, trying to just relax and kind of start, slowly weeding myself away from all the drama I've been dealing with and the scores and everything else. I mean, I kind of feel like, I've accomplished so much over the years that, I feel, I'm getting to that point where it's like, I'm going to do stuff here and there, but I'm not going to go crazy anymore. There's no reason to.
You're talking about the records. What was the last record that you worked on?
The last one I worked on, I started working on a lot of like low scores instead of high scores, trying to reinvent a way of playing video games per se. I wanted to do something that nobody else ever did before in video gaming history. Of course, low scores, high scores, whatever. I wanted to finish a game with a 0, and a lot of people don't understand the concept because nobody's ever done anything like that before. So somebody, a couple of friends were like, do it for the sake of history, Rudy, and of course I chose an obscure title because it had to be something that would work, and I reinvented this formula per se, and I figured out a way to achieve a perfect 0 score on a video game. It was something that nobody ever did, so I ended up doing the whole entire game, getting all the items, everything that was needed to make it a complete game so nobody could say anything different. And then I figured out a formula in my head to finish that game with an exact 0 on the board when the game was over, from start to finish.
That's amazing. Is that the one is that on YouTube right now?
It is. It is there on YouTube. It looks like I'm just going back and forth, but that's actually a formula that's involved, and if it's not done perfectly, it will not work. Can't do it a little bit worse, can't do it a little bit better. It has to be exact, otherwise you will not be able to get a 0.
Like, what was your inspiration for wanting to do it this way?
Well, I started video gaming when I was about 6 years old, and I wasn't that good when I was younger, and then when I hit around 20, 21 years old or so, I started realizing I was starting to get good, and I was like, well, let me look into, scores and stuff like that. And I actually looked up high scores even before that, probably like 18, 19, and I think I saw, high score boards online. I was like, well, I see Pitfall 2, 199,000 points. And I'm like, well, that's a perfect score. Oh, so wow. So I'd be tied for the world title, So I was like, I could do that. And it just started from there, and I kind of chickened out for the first few years, and I didn't submit because I could have been well ahead of my time if I would have, and I didn't. I waited until I was about, I don't know, what was my first year I submitted a score, I think was 2003. So,
do you have any like approach in mind when you want to set these records? Like, how do you go about that?
It depends on the game. Number one, I have to like what I'm playing. I can't pick up a game that I hate and play it and get good at it. It'll never happen. It doesn't matter. Even if I'm good at the game itself, I'm not going to push it to the next level if I don't enjoy it,
Right.
And so that's kind of how I got started. I wanted to be different than everybody else. Of course, I wanted to get other records that people had, but I wanted to do something that nobody else did. So I started choosing all these weird, as they call, stupid, obscure titles that everybody calls them that I play, which, that's fine with me. I don't want to be the, how can I put it's a double-edged sword, I'm either the outcast or I'm a copycat. So I'll just be the outcast.
And you seem to go for NES games. Do you not play Genesis or TurboGrafx or anything?
Yeah, it's a funny question, and it's a good question. I'm glad you asked it. That's a lot of people don't realize. They think I just have like a bunch of max outs on the NES, and what people don't realize, I have records on TurboGrafx 16, Sega Genesis, Game Boy, Super Nintendo, some on PlayStation. I mean, you know, the list is all over the place, including arcade now. So, you know.
Nice. Yeah, we were talking earlier on our show about some recent record breakings in Qbert and Missile Command. I don't know if you heard about it.
Oh, I heard about it.
So, what do you? How do you? I think that's in the Twin Galaxies record book now. How are you?
Yeah.
How are you affiliated with Twin Galaxies?
Well, that's kind of a how can I put this? It's kind of a up and down question, but it's a perfect question on your end. Yeah, there's been good years, there's been bad years, and basically I've unfortunately been caught up in, you know, nearly 3 terms now of basically, you know, sorry if you're a Republican or a Democrat, but I just have to use the term, kind of like a third term of George W. Bush, you know, so three terms already, and it's been the same old for me. No matter what I do, no matter how much I've achieved, I never get the respect I deserve. Yeah, you know, they recently did articles on me and stuff like that, but look at how long I waited to get the recognition. I mean, you know, it's.
You have a trading card, right?
I have 2 trading cards. I do.
Well, so like Billy Mitchell, he's been in some movies lately, and you know he kind of gets a little bit more spotlight than some of the others. But I know you've been trying to, you know, like you said, you've been trying to get yourself out there and, you know, get you more in the spotlight. And I know you do the live streams on YouTube.
I do some live streams on Twitch, Justin TV, which I think is the same thing because every time I log in, it won't let me do it unless I log into both. It's really weird. So yeah, I do live streams on there. I do some videos. You know, I want to make something clear though. I don't have a problem with anybody, what they play or what they do. What I do have a problem with is when other people belittle my accomplishments because they're only stuck in the arcade world or one guy's stuck in the console world. You know, the message I have for everybody, games are games. You either can play them or you can't, and you have to enjoy what you play. Just because I don't do Tetris or Mario, and I do have Mario games, but just because I don't do a Tetris, Mario score, Frogger, or Donkey Kong doesn't make me any less than anybody else. And it's really, you know, it's really closed-minded the way that you know, a lot of these corporations think, you know, and how they treat the gamers. Well, you know, if it's not going to sell, it's not going to work. Well, you know, it's funny. I got all those views and hits on the TG site with my current article and beat out, you know, Ken House's, you know, Dig Dug, and even the guy at Missile Command that killed him in likes. Okay, he might have gotten more views nationwide, but that's just because it's a more popular game. That doesn't make it any less for me to do a 0 score or for him to do a top score. I mean, anybody can get good at one game, and if you keep doing the same old thing repetitively, that's why we have no business as far as, like, you know, classic gaming for leagues and stuff, because all you do is promote, not you, I'm saying in general, 4 or 5 games. It's repetitive. It's stupid. You know, you got to open up the horizons. You know, Michael Jordan didn't just sit there and take free throws. You know, he was able to play a complete game. I'm not saying you have to be good at every aspect of what you do, but you have to be good enough to hang with everybody else. I'm not saying that I need to go out there or anybody needs to go out there and be able to play Xbox and 20 other systems, but at least be good enough to play them. You don't have to be the man or the woman that plays everything perfectly. You just have to be a balanced person to be a great gamer. And that's the misconception with today's gamers. You know, oh, well, they play 5 games, you know, they consider themselves pros. Right? Seriously? Imagine if the NBA was like that. People would get into the NBA just for shooting a three-pointer. Yes, you see three-point shooters in the NBA, but they got there because they were able to do everything else. That's why they're there. They're not there because they're a three-point specialist.
Now, speaking of doing something different, I mean, do you see a new trend coming up from the style of gameplay or the style of records that you're going for? Do you see other people trying to go for those same type of results?
Unfortunately, you know, it's you know, I've been in the shadows for so long. You know, now I'm starting to get a little bit of a push, so I'm hoping that people start picking up on it, because it's not just about me or about just anybody. I just wanted a little bit of respect for what I've done over the years. I just want to make that, really clear too. It's not just about me, I just wanted a little respect that I've been waiting for. Honestly, I would like to see other people take the torches and start doing things and playing other games and, yeah, changing these rules around and making the games harder. I mean, I'm making games harder by going for lower scores because it's more defensive than offensive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I like the idea of metagaming or of just unintentional results in a game, like making the game into something that's different than what the game creators intended for people to do while they were playing. So, I think that's a good goal to have, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, what's wrong? The thing is, if you don't do different things, if everything's the same old, that's why it won't grow. And I know you can't talk to the owners of these companies. They don't get it. They see it one way. It's black and white, and you can't change their mind. It was like Julia Child when she had the cooking show. Everybody laughed at her. I read the story. Everybody told her, "Oh, it's never going to take off. You're never going to make any money in cooking. You don't know what you're doing." Well, who's laughing now? The entire Food Network is bigger than anything. Why can't gaming be? Why can't we have all-around gaming? Why can't we have leagues and teams? Why can't it be done? Oh, because the money's been made already? Well, money's been made with food, too. And then people are like, well, people buy food. Well, people buy classic video games. You guys know firsthand. I know firsthand. The prices have skyrocketed in the last 10 years. So who are people kidding? I don't get it.
So what's next? So what do you have going on now? Like, do you have a new goal in mind or any games you're working on?
I'm trying to find out what everybody else wants to see. So I kind of put like a poll out there today, and I wanted to see what they thought would be for my next gaming accomplishment. I gave them like 5 choices or something. I may do all 5 of them even without their request. But I really wanted to see what people wanted to see. So I gave 5 obscure, weird, types of settings just to see what people wanted to see. And the hardest one of all is probably going to be that Pitfall on Atari 2600 to get a 0 on that, because as easy as that sounds, that's getting all the coins and everything else and getting every single thing. And then to get 0, I already figured it out. You have to basically land on the diamond and get the diamond just as the time expires in order to achieve that 0 score, the last diamond, which could be almost impossible to do.
That sounds
yeah. If I could pull that off, I don't care what anybody says. That's like ridiculously crazy. That would be the biggest feat I ever had in gaming history for me if I did that.
Now, how can people follow you to know when you present these challenges or when you're going to go live on a broadcast?
Well, now that I currently just opened up my my fan page, and I'm trying to keep that as clean as possible and stay away from the controversy and everything, they can go to Rudy Retro Champion J Ferretti, and they can find me, anywhere on Facebook, and then of course my YouTube page. You type my first and last name anywhere, you can find me anywhere. I mean, obviously people are looking for me, because if they didn't, they wouldn't be talking, smack talk behind my back all the time on their forum or whatever they're doing.
Like, say you do get to choose this Pitfall game, how would you go about practicing something like that? Do you have like a technique that you do or a ritual?
There is no technique. There is no ritual. Honestly, what I would have to do, and I'll give the secret away because it doesn't bother me one bit, because it's still got to be done perfect. And if it gets done perfect, only people can tie it. What I would have to do first and foremost is once I learn the entire map by heart, which I pretty much know, but I want to learn it a little more, I would have to basically do an emulation of a save state and go to that last fucking diamond and land on it just perfectly. And I would have to save state it and put it to like the last couple of seconds and keep doing it over and over again to figure it out. The timing, it's crazy. You have to grab. It's not a 0 score complete game if I don't grab that last diamond, and it has to be, my foot has to touch it, and it has to go clink, and then the timer has to stop as I'm grabbing the diamond. It's the only way to do it.
Thank you so much for taking the time out. This was awesome. And I've got to check out. Yeah, I can't wait to check out your next clip. your record breaking.
The last article went internationally. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Rudy.
Okay, so that was Rudy, and we learned a little bit about him today.
Yeah.
An interesting thing about, because he mentioned Nintendo, and people are funny about playing games on the original systems, especially when it comes to record breaking.
Yeah.
They usually don't allow like using emulation in computers,
because you never know what modifications or
exactly
what conditions
is it really
those games are running under.
yeah, is it how true to the original is it?
Right.
So unfortunately, finding a working console or an arcade machine is not so easy.
Yeah, as time goes on, it's going to get more and more difficult.
And most common is probably Nintendo. You can buy kind of knockoff Nintendos, I guess you can call them. They call them sometimes Famiclones or...
Right, yeah. So the name Famiclone comes from the original console name was the Famicom in Japan. So they to play on that, they call it the Famiclone to sort of indicate that it's, not the original system, but a clone of the Famicom, right?
Yes.
Just laying it out for the people that might not know.
So, keeping in that theme, a company is releasing a new one this year.
Right.
But this one's a little special. It's not just your average. Now, this one, you're going to have, it's called the Retron...
The Retron 5.
5.
Yeah.
And it was going to be called a 4, but they said, hold it. We're going to make it a 5 because we're going to add in an extra...
An extra system.
An extra system.
Right. So the Retron 5 is coming out, I believe, in July of 2013. It's supposed to be about $100. So the deal with that is that it plays the original Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Genesis, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance.
I'm up to 6 now.
I know. Well, these are all variations of the same system.
How about Mega Drive?
Mega Drive, and an original Famicom.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's that was the extra one was the support for Japanese Famicom. I think was because it is a different cartridge than the American NES. So it supports not only all these systems, but it connects to your TV over HDMI, giving you a nice, clean digital picture.
HDMI. Yep. So that's really uncommon in these little kind of knockoff consoles.
Yeah, supposedly upscales it to HD quality resolution.
Now this, I assume, has Nintendo and Sega's blessing, right? It's got their seal of quality on it.
Apparently not, no.
No.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't know how legal these things are. Apparently they're more legal than they used to be. But I guess until Sega or Nintendo wants to make a point of pushing them out of the market, they continue to come out. And, the other things that this console can do is it can use the original controllers for these systems.
That's right, yeah.
As well as their own wireless controller.
Yeah, it'll come with wireless and then...
Supports save states, which is something that emulators typically have an advantage with, which means you can freeze the game anytime you're playing it and then resume it right where you left off, pretty much. So it makes it easier to sort of be able to get through a game, because if you die on your last life, you can just go back to your last save state and play again. It's got speed up and slow down. It's got button remapping features, so it sounds like a great solution, actually.
It does.
So I guess the question becomes, do you like systems like this?
Well, that's what I was going to say, because now, why would you bother getting something like this when you can just play them on the computer?
Well, this, I guess, is sort of the halfway between having the original system and having a fully emulated solution. Right, because you do still need original games to play on a console like this.
Yes.
It hooks up to your TV the way the console would.
So some people like the idea of actually owning the cartridge and putting it in and playing the actual real, not just some ROM on a computer.
And you can use the original controller.
Yeah, that's true.
So it has the same feel of it. But, there is a drawback here, because the hardware that's being used is not the original hardware.
Yeah, so you're never going to get that.
So you're going to get some level of compatibility. In some cases, it's very good. In other cases, it's not so great. But I guess emulation has its benefits, right? The doesn't take up any real space. You just have a box that can play all your games. You know, you can have cheat codes built into the game. You can play import games pretty easily. Some people take games that weren't released in English and translate them, and now you've got a new game that was never released in English. Things like that. But, you know, so this is, I think there's benefits to both approaches. What would you prefer? If
I have to take sides now?
I'm asking you to take sides.
I prefer just emulation, 100% computer emulation.
Right.
I went through that period where I had every console hooked up, and but I'm kind of over that now. So everything's, I look for portability, and if there was one console that played absolutely everything, then that's what I would probably get if I were. But like this still leaves out, you know, this Retron.
Yeah.
It's not going to have 3DO, and it's not going to have Atari.
Yeah.
And Coleco.
There's always going to be something. Well, I do have some examples of some of these clone systems that have come before the one we were talking about.
So you dipped into your loot.
That's right.
You found some clones of Nintendo, is it?
Yeah, these are all Nintendo clone systems.
Right, let's see what you got.
Enough. Let's see. So I guess it's most recently, not most recently, but in the recent past, there's been some pretty high quality ones, I think. The first one that comes to mind is this system right here. I just pulled this out of a wormhole. The Generation X, right? So this system, which I think is a pretty nice design.
It looks like a Wii. Are you sure it's not a Wii?
Looks a little bit like a Wii, right? But it actually came out in 2005, so it was a little before the Wii.
So Nintendo stole it. The idea.
Well, this looks a lot like an NES, an original NES.
Like an NES.
So I'm gonna.
It's really cool looking.
I'm not gonna accuse anyone of stealing anything, because we could take sides on that. But the cool thing about this is, you know, it's got composite video out.
And gold connectors.
Nice high quality gold connectors. So I'm going to say that, like, basically the reason a device like this exists is because, you know, the AV Famicom or the NES with AV out, I mean, it's like a highly valuable console, and it's hard to get.
Yeah.
You know, it's either that or you play over RF, which is not the best thing in the world. So something like this was created as a solution, as like a possible alternative to doing that. It's got an NES card slot in the front, and then it's even got a slot for Japanese Famicom cards as well.
Interesting.
So that's not bad. The controller ports are the same as an NES, so it supports all original NES controllers, including the Zapper and including Rob, the robot.
Really?
If you want to use that. Sure.
Yeah. So you've tested this. This is proven.
Yeah. It's pretty good. I mean, they claim 97% compatibility with games. You've got to do a controller test, don't you?
I have to see this. I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued.
Little dog bone controller.
It's a dog bone. It's pretty good. It's got a little membrane kind of surface here before they start and select.
Yeah.
I like it. That's one of my favorites. I wish Nintendo would have actually released that. That's a nice setup there.
It's definitely a really.
So is
nice
this for sale
system.
now? Like, can people still buy this?
I don't know if I don't think they're produced anymore, but I think they're around if somebody wanted one.
Yeah. Cool.
There are more recent models out. I mean, these things continue to come out somehow.
Yeah.
So here's another example. This is the FC Twin. This one was pretty common for a while too. I think they're still around in numbers and in different colors and whatever you like.
Wow, they really ripped off Super Famicom.
Well,
or Super Nintendo control pad right here.
Sure, yeah. Well, the deal with this one is that this one can play original 8-bit Nintendo games as well as Super Nintendo games.
Oh, okay.
And it even uses the Super Nintendo style
look at that. Okay.
connector.
Nice.
So
you can use your own joysticks. controllers with these things.
Yeah, you can use a Super Nintendo compatible controller with that. You can even use, any of the other weird controllers that came out, the Super Scope or one of those, if you needed to. But the drawback is that you can't use NES controllers or any of those accessories.
Only Super Nintendo.
Yeah, right. So you're using the Super Nintendo controller for either one.
So now there's a power switch that says 8-bit and 16-bit.
Mm-hmm. You have to physically switch
So now
it.
say I have a Nintendo game in there and I put it on 16-bit. Will that make the Nintendo game look better? Is it going to have 16-bit graphics?
I don't think it works that way.
No?
That's
what
wishful
happens
thinking.
when did you try it?
I'm going to say I didn't try it because I didn't know what was going to happen.
All right.
Well,
all right.
These systems came out in an era when these things were more legal than not, I guess. People assumed like Nintendo's patents on this stuff, a lot of them expired around 2003. So these systems became more common and were less likely to be taken off the market. Before that, there were plenty of systems. I mean, they were produced all over the world. And I happened to find some of them when I was on vacation in Europe in, I'm going to say 97, 98, somewhere around that time.
Okay.
I was in Greece and I happened to find some weird video game systems on the shelf that I'd never seen before. So let's take a look at this one. But you didn't know this was going to be that kind of show, right?
Take it easy. You know those are illegal, right? You didn't tell me you were bringing a gun to my house.
They kind of are, right? Because
there's no orange tip.
Yeah, I mean, so right away you can tell that this system was not sold in the U.S. because here's
crazy? This is going to be on camera.
A replica weapon. Well, yeah, I mean, clearly this doesn't go anywhere. So believe it or not, even though this thing looks like a Discman, like a giant CD player, it's actually, a clone Famicom system, yet another one. So this is the cartridge it came with.
Cool. Wow, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, and Mortal Kombat 3, and soccer.
I think those are just random graphics that are
just random
plastered on the side of the cartridge. I mean, there's a list of
that's crazy.
The games that it's supposed to have. This one is called, well, I don't know if it's the name of the system, but it's got the brand Contourland on it, which, from what I understand, is like a European.
Is that a place in Europe that you've been, Contourland?
No. It exists somewhere outside the Mushroom Kingdom.
So what is this, Genesis or Nintendo?
This is a Nintendo bootleg cart, I guess. It's a multi-cart. So you can plug in like that.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah. So this is like, I guess, like a Zapper equivalent.
Wait a minute, this is PlayStation.
Kind of looks like it, right?
So where do you put the disc?
And it's even got a Atari style plug or Genesis type of plug.
Things are getting weird.
But
all right, well,
there's yet another one.
Okay.
Is this system here? Master Games Supercom. I think the set was actually called the MKX.
This has the Nintendo seal on it, so this is probably like legit in Europe.
Yeah, unfortunately not.
No?
This looks a lot like what the Super Nintendo looked like in Europe. Very similar to the Japanese style case. But, again, it's another 8-bit Nintendo clone. There's so many of these things. Here's another gamepad for your evaluation.
Oh, this is terrible. There's no left and right upper buttons.
Well, it's in NES games. They don't use that.
Oh, I see. There's turbo. So there's BA and then there's turbo BA.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Pretty
I feel like
cheesy.
I would get and it makes a funny sound when you shake it too.
And these are like really super lightweight. I doubt there's barely anything in here.
This is not a high quality console.
That's the impression you're left with, huh?
I can tell, yes, because there's stickers on the back of this that tell you what the port labeling. This is like someone took a P-Touch and just labeled the back.
These things need labeling.
Garbage.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting to really use these things for anything, but they were just more of a curiosity for me.
Wasn't this a box cover to a game? Holding the gun like this.
It's a lot of those.
But you know what? I'm really... unless you have anything else to add on that last one, I gotta see this generation... Why do they call it NEX and not Generation NES?
NES? Well, they couldn't use NES, so they went with NEX. Maybe it is Generation NEX.
Oh, NEX. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see, because I love the design on this, how a cartridge fits into this. So, because you're a cool kid, I figured...
Oh man, I can see where this is going.
Why not check out some Kid Cool?
Man.
Let's see.
What a setup.
Ooh. Don't you love the sound of a brand new game? This is really old though.
It's going to be right in the front.
Let's see.
Look at that.
Nice.
Very sleek and low profile. This is almost like a sports car.
I like it a lot. Now, this is pretty rad, you know? I would almost say it's totally rad. So, let's see how this... Let's check out Totally Rad in this. You can't put it on top?
No, those are for the old style games, the Japanese style games.
I wanted to play 2 games at once, split screen.
Doesn't work that way.
I wonder if you could put the Game Genie in there.
I wonder if that's on their compatibility list.
This is cool. It's so small.
It's tiny, right?
So you can almost like put it on your waist, put some straps on it, you know.
If you have like an LCD screen that you can mount on your wrist or something, you could play NES games on the go.
All right.
Well, there you go.
Not bad. I need my game back.
Really?
Yeah.
You can't borrow it?
No, I can't take it out.
You'll get it back, don't worry.
All right. I'll trust you.
Okay.
All right, what else?
That's all I've got.
More? 4 Famiclones?
That's it.
Interesting.
There's a lot more out there, but that's all I brought today.
I like it.
Good deal.
I'll take this one. You don't play. You said you don't play him anymore, so.
All right, sure.
All right.
You can borrow it.
Okay. So finally, I think we should end this. But I want to just put a challenge out there because we talked a lot about video game challenges.
Yeah, and breaking records. And
it's kind of a big thing still, like on Twitch. There's a lot of like tournaments and contests. So I figure we'll stick with the mobile gaming because that never gets enough attention. And I want to put an offer out there to anyone who is on Game Center for iOS.
Yep.
To send myself or Leon or both of us a challenge, any game, even if we don't own it. I'll probably buy the game even if I don't own it, just to accept the challenge.
Yeah.
But I like to think of myself as pretty good, so I want to see if someone can beat me.
It's been proven to be true.
Maybe.
Well,
that's up for debate.
Okay.
But yeah, so
the gauntlet is thrown. The challenge is on the table.
And if you don't know how to do it, you can go into Game Center and select the game and you can challenge from there. Or if we're not your friend, you can, I think if you go in the game itself, under the little Game Center icon in the game, you can kind of send a challenge to like a random person, you know, as long as you know their name. So my name on Game Center is Stephanie Shortcake, and yours is?
I'm Casual.Kirk.
Casual. All right, so we'll post it on the screen. And if you do send the challenge, we'll film it and we're going to show it on a future episode. I'll pick the best, whatever the best challenges are. Nothing too easy. So send those challenges. Like us on YouTube and subscribe, please. Yep. Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.